My name is Jessica Wright, and I'm 34 years old. I never expected that watching my daughter open a birthday present would change our lives forever. I was sitting on our worn beige couch, coffee in hand, as Lily tore into the wrapping paper from my parents. Her excited smile vanished in an instant. Her hands trembled as she stared into the box, her face draining of color. "What is this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. I moved closer, confused by her reaction to a gift from grandparents she'd only met through video calls. Grandparents who hadn't spoken to me in 8 years. Before I tell you what was in that package, let me know where you're watching from. Hit subscribe if you want to hear more stories about family betrayal and healing. This journey gets dark, but I promise, there's light at the end. I grew up in a picture-perfect colonial house in Lakeville, Connecticut, where appearances meant everything. My mother, Martha Thompson, kept our home spotless and our family reputation spotless too, at least on the surface. With her perfectly styled blonde hair and pearl necklaces, she was the embodiment of suburban propriety. My father, Frank, was her silent partner, a successful accountant who rarely contradicted my mother's decisions. He wasn't a bad man, just a weak one who found it easier to surrender to her iron will than to fight. From an early age, I understood the unwritten rules. Be quiet, be obedient, be perfect. My childhood bedroom was decorated in pale pink with ruffled curtains, mother's choice, not mine. I wanted posters and bright colors, but that's not how proper young ladies decorate, Jessica. Every aspect of my life was controlled, from the clothes I wore to the friends I was allowed to have. Art was my escape. When I was 7, my second-grade teacher, Mrs. Landry, told my parents I had natural talent. I remember the way my heart soared when she showed them my watercolor painting of our backyard garden. My father smiled genuinely. When I shared this dream at dinner one night, Mother laughed. "Artists starve, Jessica. You'll major in business or law, something practical." High school brought my first real rebellion. I signed up for every art class offered, and when Mother tried to make me drop them, I refused for the first time in my life. The argument lasted for days, ending with her cold silence and my first taste of standing my ground. I also befriended students my mother deemed unsuitable, kids from the wrong side of town. Creative types with dyed hair and thrift store clothes. Then came Tyler Matthews. Tall, with shaggy brown hair and a perpetual half-smile, he was everything my parents feared. Artistic, independent. From a working-class family. We met in AP Art junior year, and I fell hard. We'd spend hours at the local coffee shop, sketching and talking about escaping our small town. Tyler understood my passion for art in a way no one else did. He saw the real me. Mother, naturally, hated him on sight. "That boy is going nowhere," she declared after meeting him once. Father, as usual, nodded along. But their disapproval only strengthened my resolve. Tyler and I dated in secret, sneaking out to local concerts, stealing kisses in the art room after school, dreaming of our future together. I was 19, home from my first year at the state university, not the prestigious private college Mother had selected, when everything imploded. I called him first. He seemed shocked but said all the right things. We'd figure it out together. He loved me. It would be okay. Bolstered by his support, I gathered my courage to tell my parents. I can still see Mother's face changing as I shared the news. Shock, then disgust, then cold fury. Father stared at his hands, saying nothing as usual. "You will get rid of it," Mother said, her voice like ice. No discussion. "I'm keeping my baby," I replied, surprising myself with my calmness. What followed was the ugliest fight of my life. Mother screamed about my ruined future, about the family shame. When I stood firm, she delivered her ultimatum: terminate the pregnancy or get out of their house and their lives permanently. I left that night with 2 suitcases and $300 from my savings account. Tyler let me stay on his family's pull-out couch for a week before the truth emerged. He wasn't ready to be a father. His talk of supporting me had been just that, talk. 3 months into my pregnancy, he suggested adoption again, and when I refused, he gradually disappeared from my life. Those months were the hardest I'd ever experienced. I found a tiny studio apartment in the worst part of town, the only place I could afford on my part-time cafe wages. I continued taking classes, waddling to morning lectures before working 8-hour shifts on swollen feet. My professors were surprisingly understanding, allowing me to submit assignments online when the pregnancy made attendance difficult. The one bright spot was my prenatal care. Mother answered, listened to my news in silence, then said, "You made your choice, Jessica," before hanging up. That was the last time we spoke for 8 years. As for Tyler, he came to the hospital once, looked at Lily through the nursery window, and left without speaking to me. A month later, I heard he'd moved to California to find himself. No matter how hard things got, and they did get brutally hard, I would create a home where she felt safe, accepted, and free to become whoever she wanted to be. The first year of Lily's life tested every ounce of my strength and resilience. Our studio apartment was barely big enough for a single bed and a second-hand crib. The neighborhood wasn't safe. I regularly heard shouting and police sirens at night, but it was all I could afford while trying to finish my degree and care for an infant. Sleep became a luxury I rarely enjoyed. Lily was colicky for the first 3 months, crying for hours each night despite my desperate attempts to soothe her. I'd pace our tiny living space, bouncing her gently, both of us crying from exhaustion. During the day, I'd attend classes while a neighbor watched her, then rush to my waitressing job where I'd serve tables with spit up on my shirt and dark circles under my eyes. Mrs. Rodriguez, the elderly woman in the apartment next door, became my unexpected savior. She was a retired kindergarten teacher who offered to watch Lily when I needed to study or simply take a shower. "Every mother needs a village," she'd say in her soft accent, rocking Lily with practiced ease. "I'm just a small part of yours." I graduated with my bachelor's degree in graphic design when Lily was 18 months old. The ceremony was bittersweet. I was proud of my accomplishment, but acutely aware of the empty seats where family should have been. Mrs. Rodriguez came instead, holding Lily on her lap and cheering loudly when I crossed the stage. With my degree finally in hand, I landed an entry-level position at a small marketing firm. The pay wasn't great, but it included health insurance and regular hours, a significant improvement over waitressing. More importantly, it was work I enjoyed, allowing me to use my artistic talents in a practical way, just as I'd eventually hoped to prove to my mother. When Lily turned 2, we moved to a one-bedroom apartment in a safer neighborhood. It wasn't fancy, but it had a small playground nearby and walls I could paint any color I wanted. I chose bright, cheerful yellows and blues and hung my own artwork alongside Lily's first finger paintings. She had my dark hair and artistic tendencies, but possessed a natural confidence I'd never had at her age. She'd sing at the top of her lungs and introduce herself to strangers at the park without a hint of shyness. Watching her, I often wondered how much of her personality came from the freedom I'd given her to express herself, freedom my parents had never allowed me. When Lily turned 3, she started asking about her extended family. Simple, innocent questions that pierced my heart. Do I have a grandma and grandpa like Emma does? It was then that I made one last attempt at reconciliation with my parents. I sent them photos of Lily, a letter describing her personality and milestones, and my contact information should they want to be part of her life. 2 weeks later, the envelope returned unopened, stamped "Return to Sender" in my mother's unmistakable handwriting. I sat in our tiny living room and made peace with the fact that my parents had chosen pride over knowing their remarkable granddaughter. But while my biological family remained closed off, the universe sent me a chosen family. I met Allison at a single-parent support group held at the local community center. She was raising her son alone after her husband's death and understood the unique challenges I faced. Our children were similar ages and quickly became playmates, giving Allison and me time to develop a friendship that felt more like sisterhood. Through Allison, I met Mark, a kind-hearted high school English teacher who volunteered at the community center. He became the male presence in our little group, taking the kids fishing and teaching them to ride bikes, things I had no idea how to do. We were never romantic, but he filled a gap in Lily's life, showing her that men could be dependable and gentle. Together, we created our own traditions. Thanksgiving at Allison's apartment, with each of us contributing dishes. Christmas Eve pajama parties where the kids would fall asleep watching holiday movies while we adults wrapped presents and sipped wine. Summer barbecues at the park where Mark would grill and tell the kids outrageous stories that made them shriek with laughter. As Lily grew. But that didn't mean there was anything wrong with her. When she asked about my parents, I explained that sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt other people. And my parents and I had a disagreement that hadn't been resolved. "But why don't they want to meet me?" she asked once, her 5-year-old face crumpling in confusion. By the time Lily turned 7, our life had stabilized in ways I'd once thought impossible. I'd been promoted to senior designer at my firm, which came with a significant raise. We'd moved again to a 2-bedroom apartment with a small yard. Lily was thriving in school, particularly in art and reading. Her teacher called her imaginative and emotionally intelligent, high praise that made my heart swell with pride. We had built a beautiful life from the ashes of rejection. My focus remained on nurturing Lily's confidence and creativity, ensuring she never experienced the emotional confinement that had defined my own childhood. Our little family of 2, supplemented by our chosen family of friends, seemed complete. I had no idea that the careful equilibrium we'd established was about to be shattered by an unexpected letter from Connecticut. It was a Tuesday afternoon like any other. I'd picked up Lily from her after-school program, and we were sorting through the mail in the car before heading inside. Bills, advertisements, a magazine I subscribed to, the usual assortment. Then I saw it, a cream-colored envelope with the familiar return address in Lakeville, Connecticut. My parents' handwriting. My heart lurched painfully against my ribs, and I felt my hands go cold. "Mommy, are you okay?" Lily asked from the back seat, noticing my sudden stillness. I forced a smile. "Yes, sweetie. Just thinking about what to make for dinner." I slipped the envelope into my purse, not wanting to open it in front of her. "How about spaghetti tonight?" She cheered, easily distracted, while my mind raced with questions. Why now, after 8 years of silence? What could they possibly want? After getting Lily settled with homework, I sat in my car in the garage, staring at the unopened letter for 20 minutes before finding the courage to tear the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of my mother's monogrammed stationery, her precise handwriting instantly transporting me back to childhood. "Dear Jessica, *, your father suffered a minor heart attack last month. He's recovering well. But the incident has caused us both to reconsider our priorities. We've thought about you and our granddaughter often over the years. Perhaps it's time to put the past behind us. We would very much like to meet Lily, if you're amenable. *. Please call us at your convenience. Mother." No, I miss you. No apology. Just the expectation that I would jump at the chance to reconcile on their terms. Typical. Yet beneath my anger lurked something else, a tiny, persistent flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, wondering if even considering contact was a mistake. After a week of deliberation, I composed a careful response. I would not allow them immediate access to Lily, but I proposed a video call as a first step. I explained that any relationship would need to develop slowly, with clear boundaries. I was no longer the frightened teenager they could bully or manipulate. Their reply came surprisingly quickly, agreeing to my terms. And so, on a Sunday afternoon, I set up my laptop on the kitchen table and prepared Lily for the call. "These are my parents," I explained. "Your grandparents. They live far away and we haven't spoken in a long time. But they'd like to meet you." "Why haven't they visited before?" she asked, straightforward as always. "Sometimes adults have disagreements that take a long time to resolve," I said, choosing my words carefully. "But they're interested in getting to know you now." The call itself was awkward. Mother looked older, but still impeccably put together, reminding myself this was just a first step. Over the next 2 months, we had 3 more video calls, each slightly less awkward than the last. Father seemed genuinely interested in Lily's artwork, asking her to hold her drawings closer to the camera and praising her creativity, comments that surprised me, given how he'd always deferred to Mother's dismissal of my own artistic pursuits. Mother remained more reserved, but made efforts in her own way, asking about Lily's favorite subjects and books. She even laughed when Lily told a silly joke. A sound so unfamiliar it momentarily startled me. During our fourth call, Mother mentioned Lily's upcoming 8th birthday. "We'd like to send her a special gift," she said. "Would that be acceptable?" I hesitated, then nodded. "That would be fine. We'll need your address," Father added. Giving them my physical address felt like a bigger step than the video calls, more concrete, more real. But after some consideration, I provided it, with the explicit understanding that they wouldn't show up unannounced. The package arrived 3 days before Lily's birthday, a medium-sized box wrapped in silver paper with an elegant blue bow. I inspected it carefully, resisting the urge to open it myself first. It felt substantial, not particularly heavy. I placed it with her other presents, trying to ignore the anxiety coiling in my stomach. On the morning of her birthday, I woke early to decorate our apartment with balloons and streamers before making Lily's favorite breakfast: chocolate chip pancakes shaped like animals. She bounded out of her room with typical enthusiasm, clapping at the decorations and hugging me tightly. "Can I open presents now, please?" And mark with excited exclamations, art supplies, books, a science kit she'd been wanting. Finally, only my parents' gift remained. "This one's from your grandparents," I explained, pushing it toward her. Lily examined the fancy wrapping paper before carefully untying the ribbon. "It's pretty," she commented, sliding her finger under the tape, her expression transforming from curiosity to confusion to something that looked unnervingly like fear. Her hands went still, her face drained of color. For several long seconds, she didn't move or speak. "Lily?" I prompted, moving closer. "What is it, sweetie?" Her voice was barely audible when she finally whispered, "What is this?" Its face was painted with delicate features, rosy cheeks, red lips, and large glass eyes that seemed to follow you as you moved. The doll's dark hair was arranged in perfect ringlets. Lily whispered, her eyes wide and frightened. "What?" I asked, confused by her statement. "Sweetie, you just opened the box. The doll couldn't have." "I've seen her before," Lily insisted, backing away from the box. "In my dreams. She stands in the corner and watches me sleep." A chill ran down my spine. "Lily, that's impossible." Leaving me stunned beside the open gift box, I picked up the doll carefully, examining it. Up close, it was even more unsettling, something about the fixed stare of its glass eyes, the slightly too realistic quality of its features. As I turned it over, I noticed a small envelope tucked into the doll's dress. Inside was a note written in my mother's precise handwriting. "For Lily. *, this is Charlotte. She was your mother's most treasured toy as a child. We've kept her safe all these years, and now it's time for her to be with you. Special dolls should stay in the family, *. Grandma Martha and Grandpa Frank." I frowned, staring at the note. I had no recollection of this doll whatsoever. I'd had a few stuffed animals as a child and a plastic baby doll, but nothing like this elaborate porcelain piece. And I certainly would have remembered a doll named Charlotte. I'd never liked that name. Setting the doll aside, I went to find Lily. She was huddled on her bed, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. "She's with the mean lady who wants to take me away from you." My heart sank. "What mean lady, sweetheart?" "The old lady with the perfect hair. She says I need proper raising." Lily looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "I don't want to go with her, Mommy." It took everything in me to keep my expression neutral. Lily had never met my mother, had only seen her briefly on video calls. How could she have dreamed about a mean lady with perfect hair who used phrases like proper raising, words that sounded exactly like something my mother would say? "No one is taking you anywhere," I assured her, pulling her into a tight hug. "You're staying right here with me always." I managed to salvage the rest of her birthday with cake and a movie, but that night, Lily refused to sleep in her own room. "Charlotte might come back," she whispered as I tucked her into my bed. I had placed the doll in a high closet shelf, out of sight. "The doll is put away in a box," I assured her. She can't get out. Lily looked unconvinced, but eventually drifted off to sleep beside me. I lay awake much longer, my mind racing. The coincidence was too strange, Lily's reaction, her dreams about a woman who sounded remarkably like my mother. And why would my mother claim this doll was mine when I had no memory of it? The next morning, I called my parents while Lily was in the shower. Did Lily like her gift? Mother asked immediately, without even a greeting. Actually, she was frightened by it, I replied. Mother, I don't remember ever having that doll. Why would you tell her it was mine? Don't be ridiculous, Jessica, she scoffed. Charlotte was your favorite. You took her everywhere until you were about 6. That's not true, I insisted. I never had a porcelain doll like that. Your memory has always been selective, Mother said dismissively. Ask your father if you don't believe me. There was shuffling on the line as the phone changed hands. Jessica. Father's voice came through, sounding tired. Dad. Did I really have that doll as a child? The one you sent Lily. There was a long pause. Your mother thinks it would be good for Lily to have it, he finally said, not directly answering my question. That's not what I asked, I pressed. I should go, he said suddenly. Your mother needs help with something. The call ended, leaving me more unsettled than before. That evening, after Lily was asleep, I searched online for information about antique porcelain dolls. Based on the doll's features and clothing style, it appeared to be from the 1920s, potentially valuable to collectors. Nothing in my research explained Lily's extreme reaction or her claim that she'd seen the doll before. On impulse, I called my childhood friend Samantha. We hadn't spoken in years, but she'd remained in Lakeville and occasionally ran into my parents. Jess, she answered, surprise evident in her voice. Is everything okay? I'm not sure. I admitted, then explained about the doll and Lily's reaction. The silence that followed made my skin prickle. Sam? Oh my God, Jess, she finally said. You don't remember Charlotte? No. Samantha confirmed quietly. You told me once, but made me promise never to tell anyone. Your mom said Charlotte watches bad girls when they need to think about their behavior. It was super creepy, Jess. My hands were shaking as I thanked her and ended the call. How had I forgotten something so significant? But even as I wondered, I knew the answer. Trauma has a way of burying itself, protecting us from memories too painful to bear. That night, I dreamed of being small again. Trapped in a dark closet with the doll's glassy eyes reflecting the thin strip of light under the door. In the dream, I could hear my mother's voice. Charlotte will teach you to be a good girl. Jessica. I woke drenched in sweat, finally remembering the truth. The next morning, I called my mother again, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Why did you send Lily that doll? I demanded without preamble. I told you it was your. Stop lying, I cut her off. I remember now. You used Charlotte to punish me. You locked me in the closet with her when I misbehaved. There was a moment of silence before Mother spoke, her voice colder. Sometimes children need discipline. You were a difficult child who required special measures. It was psychological abuse. I said, the words feeling both terrible and liberating. And now you've tried to do the same thing to my daughter. Don't be dramatic, Jessica, she sniffed. Children today have no discipline. Lily clearly needs firmer guidance than you're providing. Dad, I said, knowing he was listening on the extension. Did you know about this? About the closet? His sigh was heavy with guilt. Jessica, your mother only wanted what was best. That's not an answer, I pressed. I knew, he admitted quietly. I didn't always agree, but you did nothing to stop it. I finished for him. We raised you properly, Mother interjected sharply. Look at you, a single mother, struggling financially, filling Lily's head with nonsense about being an artist. She needs structure, tradition, proper influences. It all became horrifyingly clear. This was never about reconciliation, I realized aloud. Trembling with a mixture of fury and relief. The fog of doubt had lifted. My parents hadn't changed at all. They'd simply found a new target for their manipulation. Later that afternoon, while Lily was at a play date, I carefully examined the doll again. Something about the weight seemed off. I pressed gently around its porcelain body and felt an unusual lump inside the torso. Carefully turning the doll over, I discovered a nearly invisible seam in the back of the dress. Inside was a small recording device. When I pressed play, I heard my mother's voice. "Hello, Lily." I needed to confront my parents face to face, not for reconciliation, but for final closure. I called Allison the next morning and explained everything. "I need to go to Connecticut," I concluded. "To face them directly." "Are you sure that's wise?" she asked worriedly. "I need to do this," I insisted. "For Lily's sake and my own. I've been running from my past for too long." Allison agreed to watch Lily for the weekend, understanding this was something I needed to do alone. I told Lily I had a brief work trip and promised to bring her back a special souvenir. As I packed a small overnight bag, I placed Charlotte in a separate tote. The doll that had terrorized my childhood and now threatened my daughter would be returning to my parents, along with 8 years of suppressed truths. After putting Lily to bed that night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, determined to understand more about the doll before confronting my parents. Searching for 1920s porcelain dolls yielded thousands of results. But as I refined my search with more specific details, burgundy dress, glass eyes, ringlet hair, I discovered Charlotte was a rare collector's item from a German doll maker. Similar dolls were selling for thousands of dollars at auction houses. This wasn't just a random gift, it was a valuable antique with a disturbing connection to my childhood. Unable to sleep, I called Samantha again, needing to recover more of my buried memories. "I'm sorry to call so late," I began. "It's fine," she assured me. "Have you remembered more about the doll?" "Some, but it's still fragmented. Can you tell me anything else about how my mother used Charlotte?" Samantha sighed heavily. "It started when we were around 5 or 6. Your mom had these rigid rules: no getting dirty, no raised voices, perfect manners at all times. Impossible standards for a child. When you broke a rule, Charlotte would appear in your room." As she spoke, more memories surfaced, sitting stiffly at the dinner table, afraid to spill a drop, being forced to practice piano until my fingers cramped. The constant refrain of, "That's not how proper young ladies behave." The worst punishment was the closet, Samantha continued reluctantly. "If you did something your mom considered especially bad, like the time you got paint on your Sunday dress, she'd put you in your bedroom closet with Charlotte. Sometimes for hours." A vivid memory suddenly broke through. I was 7, locked in the dark closet, Charlotte's cold porcelain face pressed against mine as Mother's voice came through the door. "Charlotte watches Bad Girls. She reports back to me. She knows when you're not truly sorry." I'd forgotten all of it, I whispered, feeling nauseated. How could I forget something that traumatic? "Your mind protected you," Samantha said gently. "And your mom was always so careful to maintain appearances. No one outside your house knew what was happening. I only knew because you told me during sleepovers, and I promised never to tell." After thanking Samantha, I spent hours researching childhood psychological abuse. The patterns were painfully familiar, using fear as control, emotional manipulation, isolation as punishment. Articles explained how children often normalize abuse from parents, how memories of trauma can be suppressed, only to be triggered later by similar situations. Like my daughter receiving the same doll that had been used to terrorize me. The next morning, I woke with absolute clarity. I needed answers from my parents, particularly about how Lily could have dreamed about a doll and a mean lady she'd never properly met. Most importantly, I needed to ensure they understood they would never have the opportunity to psychologically abuse my daughter as they had me. I tried calling my parents again, needing to prepare them for my visit. But the call went straight to voicemail. Taking a deep breath, I left a message. "I'm coming to Connecticut tomorrow to talk about Charlotte. We need to resolve this once and for all." The drive from my apartment to my childhood home took just over 3 hours, but it felt like traveling through time. As I crossed the state line into Connecticut, familiar landmarks triggered cascading memories. The ice cream shop where I'd celebrated rare good report cards, the park where I'd had my first kiss with Tyler, the art supply store where I'd spent my carefully saved allowance on paints my mother would later confiscate. My parents' house looked exactly as I remembered. Only the tightness around her mouth revealed any tension. "Jessica," she said coolly, You should have confirmed before driving all this way. Is that her? Father called from inside. He appeared behind Mother, looking friendlier than on our video calls, but his eyes brightened at the sight of me. Come in, Mother said, stepping aside reluctantly. The same landscape paintings, even the same floral arrangement on the coffee table. I remained standing, declining Mother's perfunctory offer of tea. I brought something back to you, I said, placing the tote bag on the coffee table between us. I removed Charlotte carefully, setting the doll upright on the polished wood surface. Mother's face remained impassive, but Father flinched visibly. I've remembered everything, I said quietly. The closet. The punishments. How you used this doll to terrify me into obedience. Children need discipline. That's a harsh word, but accurate, I cut in. What I can't understand is why you'd send this same doll to Lily. What were you hoping to accomplish? Mother's composure slipped slightly. Lily needs proper guidance. It's clear from those video calls that you're raising her without structure or discipline. She dresses like a ragamuffin, interrupts adults, shows no proper respect. She's a happy, well-adjusted 8-year-old, I said. Which is exactly what I want her to be. She's wild, Mother sniffed. Just like you were becoming before we intervened. Before you broke me, you mean, I said evenly. Mother's eyes flashed. We gave you every advantage, good schools, music lessons, proper social connections. And you threw it all away for what? After my heart attack, I wanted to reconnect with you, to meet Lily properly. Your mother insisted we needed to establish proper authority from the beginning. You never protected me, I said. My voice thick with emotion. You watched her abuse me for years and did nothing. I know, he acknowledged, hanging his head. I've been a coward. How did you record that message inside the doll? I demanded, turning back to Mother. Her eyes widened slightly. What message? I described finding the recording device. And Father looked genuinely confused. Martha, you said you were just sending the doll. What did you do? For the first time, Mother seemed at a loss for words. It was just a way to establish a connection with Lily, she finally said defensively. To help her understand our family values. By going behind my back to manipulate my child, I clarified. But here's what I still don't understand. How did Lily know? She told me she'd seen the doll in her dreams, along with a mean lady with perfect hair, who wanted to take her away from me. She said this before she ever opened your package. Mother's face paled slightly, and Father looked alarmed. Some things can't be explained, Mother said dismissively. But her voice lacked its usual confidence. Or perhaps children sense things adults try to hide, I suggested. Like generational trauma, or the darkness behind a perfect facade. I won't let you do to her what you did to me. I turned to leave, then paused, looking back at my father. For a moment, I saw genuine sorrow in his eyes, perhaps even the beginning of understanding. I hope your heart heals, Dad, I said softly. All of it. As I walked out the front door, I heard my father call my name, but I didn't look back. Whatever he wanted to say was too little. Too late. I placed the tote bag with Charlotte in my trunk. I had no intention of keeping the doll, but would dispose of it properly once I was home. Driving away from my childhood home felt like shedding a heavy burden I'd carried for decades. The memories were painful, but facing them had broken their power over me. Most importantly, I had done what I came to do, protect Lily from the toxic legacy my parents had tried to pass down. At a scenic overlook halfway home, I pulled over and called Lily. Hi, Mommy. She answered from Allison's phone. We made cookies and I beat Jake at Monopoly. That's great, sweetheart, I said, smiling through sudden tears. I love you so much, you know that? She asked, confused. Nothing, sweetie. I'll explain when I'm older. I'll be home tomorrow, okay? As I hung up, I watched the sunset painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. For the first time in my life, I felt completely free of my parents' shadow. Whatever darkness they had tried to pass on would end with me. Tomorrow, I would go home to my daughter and continue building the loving, supportive home I'd created for us, a home where the only shadows were the ones we made together during shadow puppet games. And the only watching eyes were mine, filled with love as I witnessed my daughter growing into herself, freely and joyfully. The next morning, I checked out of my motel room early. I'd spent a restless night processing the confrontation with my parents, but woke with renewed determination to finish what I'd started. There was one last thing I needed to do before returning home to Lily. Charlotte sat in her tote bag on the passenger seat as I drove through the familiar streets of Lakeville one more time. The doll seemed to watch me with her painted glass eyes, a symbol of all the manipulation and control that had defined my childhood. I couldn't risk keeping her. Couldn't risk the possibility that my mother might somehow use her to reach Lily again. I pulled into my parents' driveway just after 9, knowing my mother would be home, but hoping to avoid another prolonged confrontation. To my surprise, my father answered the door, still in his bathrobe. "Jessica," he said, clearly shocked to see me again. "I thought you'd gone back too." "I'm leaving today," I interrupted. "I just came to return this." I held up the tote bag containing Charlotte. His face fell. "Your mother isn't home. She's at her garden club meeting." "Good," I said honestly. "I'd rather not see her again." Father hesitated, then opened the door wider. "Would you come in for a moment?" "Please." Against my better judgment, I stepped inside. The house felt different in the morning light, less intimidating, somehow. Or perhaps I was the one who had changed. "Coffee?" he offered awkwardly. I shook my head. "I can't stay long." We moved to the living room, that formal, unlived-in space that had always felt more like a museum than a home. I placed Charlotte on the coffee table between us, a silent third party to our conversation. "I should have protected you," Father said suddenly, his voice cracking. "All those years. I knew what was happening wasn't right, but I told myself your mother knew best about raising a daughter. That it was normal discipline." "It wasn't," I said quietly. "It was abuse." He nodded, eyes downcast. "After you left, pregnant and alone, I wanted to reach out. But Martha insisted we needed to present a united front, that you'd come back when you learned your lesson." He looked up, meeting my eyes directly. "By the time I realized you weren't coming back, years had passed, and I didn't know how to bridge that gap." "You could have tried," I pointed out. "A phone call. How many years I'd lost with you and my granddaughter." "So you agreed to send Charlotte to Lily?" I couldn't keep the anger from my voice. "The same doll that terrorized me as a child?" "I didn't know about the recording device," he insisted. "Martha said the doll was just a family heirloom, that it would give Lily a connection to her heritage." He shook his head. "I should have questioned it. After seeing your reaction yesterday, I confronted Martha about everything, the closet punishments, the psychological manipulation, all of it." "And?" I prompted when he fell silent. "She still insists it was proper parenting, that children today lack discipline." His hands trembled slightly. We argued most of the night. I've never stood up to her like that before. I wanted to feel sympathy for him, but it came too late. "One night of arguing doesn't make up for a lifetime of enabling abuse, Dad." "I know," he acknowledged. "I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to know that I'm getting help. I've scheduled an appointment with a therapist." He gave a humorless laugh. "Your mother thinks it's ridiculous, of course." "Where does this leave your marriage?" I asked, genuinely curious. He glanced toward the window, his expression pained. "I don't know. For the first time, I'm considering that we might be better apart than together." The front door opened suddenly, and my mother walked in, stopping short when she saw me. "What is she doing here?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "Returning the doll," Father replied, a new steadiness in his tone. Mother's eyes darted to Charlotte on the coffee table, then back to me. "I see you've been poisoning your father against me too." "I've simply been telling the truth," I said, rising to my feet. "Something this family has avoided for far too long." "The truth." She scoffed, placing her purse precisely on the entryway table. "Your version of it, perhaps. I gave you everything, Jessica. A beautiful home, the best education, proper upbringing. And how do you repay me? By turning your father against me." "Martha," Father interjected, "Jessica didn't turn me against you. Your own actions did that." Mother's perfectly composed facade cracked slightly, her eyes widening at this unexpected rebellion. She turned to me with renewed venom. "This is about Lily, isn't it? Something you never gave me." "I did what was necessary," Mother insisted. "My own mother was even stricter with me. Charlotte was my doll first, you know. My mother used her the same way with me. And I turned out perfectly fine. The revelation stunned me into momentary silence. The cycle of abuse went back further than I'd realized. "You're not fine, mother," I finally said. "You're a deeply unhappy woman who can only feel in control when you're making others miserable. That stops with me. I won't let you do to Lily what was done to you, what you did to me." I picked up Charlotte, looking into her painted face one last time. "This doll has caused enough pain in our family." "That doll is a valuable antique," Mother protested. "Worth thousands." "Then consider it payment for my therapy bills," I replied, tucking Charlotte back into her tote bag. I turned to my father. "I hope you find the strength to make whatever changes you need to." "Dad, it's never too late to start over." As I walked toward the door, Mother called after me, her voice taking on the manipulative tone I remembered from childhood. "If you leave like this, Jessica, don't expect another chance. Family loyalty means something." I paused, looking back at her. "You're right. It does mean something. It means protecting those you love, not controlling them. It means building each other up, not breaking each other down. By that definition, we've never been a real family. Your daughter will regret not knowing her heritage, her grandparents." She tried again. "My daughter will know her true heritage, strength, resilience, and breaking free from toxic patterns," I replied. "As for grandparents, she has Allison's mother who bakes cookies with her, and Mark's father who teaches her to fish. People who love her without conditions or expectations." I walked out the door, ignoring Mother's final attempts to call me back. Father followed me onto the porch, keeping his distance, but watching me with sad eyes. "What will you do with the doll?" he asked as I reached my car. "End its legacy," I answered simply. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror to see him still standing on the porch. Damaged man who had made terrible choices and was only now beginning to recognize their cost. I felt a complicated mixture of emotions, anger still, yes, but also a strange sense of closure. The confrontation hadn't gone as I'd expected, but perhaps it had gone as it needed to. Charlotte sat in her tote bag on the passenger seat, those glass eyes seeming to watch the road ahead. She represented generations of trauma and control, passed from mother to daughter like a poisoned heirloom. The cycle would end with me. I stopped at a scenic overlook on my way out of town. The same spot where I'd watched the sunset yesterday. Today, I called Lily again, needing to hear her voice. "Hi, Mommy," she answered brightly. "Are you coming home today?" "Yes, sweetie," I said, smiling at her enthusiasm. "I'll be home for dinner. Put Allison on for a minute, okay?" After confirming arrangements with Allison, I stood at the overlook railing, breathing in the crisp autumn air. The trees below were ablaze with color reds, oranges, and golds painting the landscape in warmth and beauty. Life continuing, changing, renewing itself as it always does. I opened the tote bag one last time, looking at Charlotte's painted face. "Your story ends here," I told the doll quietly. "The pain stops with me." I didn't destroy the doll as I'd initially planned. Instead, I drove to a nearby antique shop I remembered from my childhood. The elderly proprietor examined Charlotte carefully, confirming she was indeed a valuable collector's item from the 1920s. "May I ask why you're selling such a treasure?" he inquired as he wrote me a check. "She belongs in a museum or with a collector who will appreciate her as art," I replied. "Not as a family heirloom." As I drove home to Lily, I felt lighter than I had in years. The confrontation with my parents hadn't resulted in the perfect resolution of a Hollywood movie, no tearful reconciliation, no dramatic admissions of guilt from my mother. Real life rarely works that way. But I had stood my ground. I had spoken my truth. And most importantly, I had broken a generational cycle of abuse that had threatened to continue with my daughter. The money from selling Charlotte would go into Lily's college fund, transforming something that had once caused pain into a resource for her future. It felt like the perfect metaphor for what I hoped to accomplish as a mother, taking the difficult parts of my own history and using them to create something better for my child. I arrived home just as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across our apartment building. Lily burst through Allison's door as soon as she heard my car, running down the stairs and launching herself into my arms. I missed you, Mommy, she exclaimed, wrapping her arms tightly around my neck. I held her close, breathing in the scent of her hair, strawberry shampoo, and the faint sweetness that was uniquely Lily. I missed you too, sweetheart. More than you can imagine. As we walked up to our apartment hand in hand, Lily chattering about her sleepover adventures, I felt a profound sense of peace. The confrontation with my parents had been necessary, not for them, but for me and, ultimately, for Lily. Some things can't be fixed or forgiven in a single conversation. Some relationships can't be salvaged. But acknowledging those truths doesn't mean failure. Sometimes it means finding the courage to walk away from what hurts you, to choose a different path forward. Did you bring me something? Lily asked as we entered our apartment, her eyes bright with anticipation. I did, I smiled, kneeling to her level. I brought you a promise that I'll always protect you, always listen to you, and always love you exactly as you are. She wrinkled her nose. That's not a real present, Mommy. I laughed, pulling her into another hug. No, it's much better than a real present. And I'll remind you I said that when you're a teenager. That night, for the first time since receiving the package from my parents, Lily slept peacefully in her own bed. No nightmares disturbing her rest. As for me, I sat in our small living room for a long time, looking through old photos and thinking about the nature of family, how we're born into one but sometimes need to create another. Whether he would find the strength to leave my mother's toxic influence was his journey, not mine. I had done what I needed to do, confronted the past, protected my daughter. And the unshakable knowledge that breaking the cycle of abuse was the greatest gift I could give my daughter and myself. 3 weeks after my confrontation in Connecticut, Lily and I sat cross-legged on our living room floor, surrounded by art supplies. Fall had settled in fully, and rain tapped against the windows as we worked on our respective projects, Lily creating a colorful portrait of our neighbor's cat, me sketching idly in a new notebook. Mommy, Lily said suddenly, looking up from her drawing, I haven't had any bad dreams lately. I set down my pencil. That's good, sweetie. I'm glad. I think it's because you made the scary doll go away, she continued, selecting a yellow crayon. And the mean lady too. I watched her carefully. We hadn't discussed Charlotte or my parents since my return from Connecticut. Do you still remember the dreams you had about them? She nodded, concentrating on her drawing. Sometimes. But they don't feel scary anymore. They feel far away. She looked up, her expression serious beyond her years. The doll can't hurt us now, right? Right, I assured her. Charlotte is with people who will appreciate her as an antique doll, not as anything else. I hesitated, then asked, do you want to talk about those dreams? About the mean lady. Lily considered this, head tilted thoughtfully. She looked like you, but older. And she never smiled with her eyes. The description sent a chill through me, a perfect characterization of my mother that Lily couldn't possibly have known from our brief video calls. In my dreams, she kept saying I needed to be fixed, that I wasn't proper. Lily wrinkled her nose. What does proper even mean? I smiled despite the heaviness in my chest. It means different things to different people. To some, it's about following certain rules about how to behave or dress or speak. But those rules aren't always important. Like chewing with your mouth closed is important, but wearing matching socks isn't, she suggested. I laughed. Exactly like that. The mean lady thought everything was important, Lily said, returning to her drawing. That seems exhausting. It is, I agreed softly. It absolutely is. That evening, after Lily was asleep, I called my therapist to schedule another appointment. The confrontation with my parents had unlocked memories I needed help processing, a lifetime of subtle manipulation and control that I was only now beginning to fully recognize. Dr. Winters had suggested we try art therapy, given my background in visual arts. I'd been skeptical at first, but found myself looking forward to our sessions, where I could express through color and form what I sometimes struggled to articulate in words. Let's set up a weekly session through the end of the year, I told her receptionist. I think I'm finally ready to dive deeper. The next morning, Allison called with unexpected news. Your father came by the community center yesterday, she said without preamble. I nearly dropped my coffee mug. What? How did he even know about it? He said he found it online when searching for your name, she explained. He was asking about volunteer opportunities. Volunteer opportunities, I repeated skeptically. At a community center 3 hours from where he lives. That's what I thought too, Allison agreed. My mind raced with implications. For how long? He didn't say. Just that he's making some changes. I could hear the caution in her voice. Jessica, you don't owe him anything. If you don't want contact. I know, I interrupted. I need to think about this. After hanging up, I paced our small apartment, weighing options. Part of me wanted to ignore his presence entirely. He'd had decades to step up as a father and had consistently failed. Another part wondered if the confrontation had genuinely catalyzed change. People can transform, even later in life. I'd seen it happen with others. But could I risk exposing Lily to more family trauma? I was still deliberating 3 days later when an unexpected package arrived. Unlike the elaborately wrapped gift that had contained Charlotte, this was a simple cardboard box with my father's neat handwriting on the label. I opened it cautiously, half expecting another manipulation. Inside was a worn portfolio filled with children's artwork, my artwork, from elementary school through high school. Paintings, sketches, collages I'd created and then lost track of when I left home. A note sat on top in my father's handwriting. Jessica. Asterisk, I found these in the attic. Your mother had packed them away years ago. I thought you might want them. Or perhaps Lily might like to see her mother's early work. Asterisk. Asterisk, I've left your mother. It was long overdue. I'm staying in the city for now, sorting out next steps. No pressure to respond. I understand if you need distance. Asterisk. Dad. I sat on the floor of our living room, carefully examining each piece of childhood art. Here was the watercolor Mrs. Landry had praised. There a self-portrait from 7th grade, several still-life studies from high school art class. Each piece brought back memories, some painful, some surprisingly sweet. At the bottom of the portfolio, I found something unexpected, a newspaper clipping from my senior year of high school. It featured a student art show, with a photo of me standing proudly beside a painting. I had no memory of my parents attending that show. Mother had claimed a migraine that evening, and father had stayed home with her. Yet someone had carefully cut out and preserved this moment of achievement. The clipping showed signs of being handled often, its edges soft with wear. Had my father secretly celebrated my artistic talents all along? That evening, I called the hotel number on my father's card. I received the portfolio, I said when he answered. Thank you for sending it. You're welcome, he replied, his voice tentative. I should have given it to you years ago. An awkward silence stretched between us. Decades of unspoken words creating a gulf that seemed impossible to bridge. You've really left Mother? I finally asked. Yes. He sounded tired but resolute. I've rented an apartment near the university. I'm auditing some classes, art history actually. He gave a self-conscious laugh, trying to understand what I missed all those years. Why no? The question had been burning in me since our confrontation. After all this time, why make these changes now? He was quiet for a moment. The heart attack was part of it. Facing mortality has a way of clarifying priorities. Another pause. But mostly it was seeing you stand up to your mother, to us both, with such clarity and strength. You became the person I never had the courage to be. I didn't know how to respond to that. I don't expect forgiveness, Jessica, he continued. Or even a relationship. I just wanted you to have those pieces of your past that should never have been taken from you. After hanging up, I sat with my emotions, confusion, lingering anger, but also a small, surprising seed of something that felt like hope. Not for an instantly healed relationship, but for the possibility that people could change, that cycles could be broken. The next day was Saturday, and Lily had been invited to a classmate's birthday party. After dropping her off, I made an impulsive decision to visit the local art supply store. For years, I'd confined my artistic expression to my professional work as a graphic designer, but the portfolio had awakened something dormant. I filled a basket with watercolors, brushes, and heavy paper, tools I hadn't used for personal expression since before Lily was born. The cashier, a young woman with vibrant blue hair, smiled as she rang up my purchases. "Getting back into painting?" she asked. "Yes," I replied, surprising myself with how right it felt. "I think it's time." That afternoon, while Lily was still at the party, I set up a small workspace in the corner of our living room. My first attempts were hesitant, awkward, but as colors began flowing across the paper, something loosened inside me. I painted instinctively, without planning or judgment, letting emotions guide my hand. When I finally stepped back, I was looking at an abstract representation of a shattered doll, its pieces transforming into butterflies as they scattered. I hadn't consciously chosen the subject, but its symbolism was unmistakable: brokenness becoming freedom, trauma transforming into release. Over the next few months, painting became part of my healing process. I created a series of works exploring themes of confinement and liberation, of voices silenced and finally heard. Dr. Winters encouraged this expression, helping me connect the images to the experiences that had shaped me. Lily, ever curious, took great interest in my new hobby. "Can I paint with you?" she asked one evening. "Of course," I replied, setting up a space beside mine. "You can paint whatever you want." As we worked side by side, I watched her from the corner of my eye, her intense concentration, her fearless use of color, her joy in the process rather than concern about the outcome. She embodied everything I hoped for her: creativity without constraint, expression without fear. "Mommy, look," she exclaimed, holding up her finished piece, a bright landscape with a small house surrounded by flowers, a blue sky filled with birds. "It's our home, but with a garden." "It's beautiful," I told her sincerely. "Maybe we should look for an apartment with a small yard when our lease is up." Her eyes widened. "Really? We could have actual flowers." "Why not?" I smiled. Dreams have to start somewhere. For months after my confrontation with my parents, I received an email from a local gallery. One of Allison's friends worked there and had seen my paintings during a visit to our apartment. The gallery was organizing an exhibition of emerging artists and wanted to include 3 of my pieces. The opening night of the exhibition found me nervous but excited. Dressed in a simple black dress that felt both professional and true to myself, Lily stood proudly beside me in a sparkly blue outfit she'd selected, while Allison, Mark, and other friends mingled with the crowd. "Your work is powerful," the gallery owner told me, gesturing toward my paintings. "The transformation theme really resonates." I was explaining my artistic process to an interested couple when I felt Lily tugging at my hand. "Mommy," she whispered, pointing toward the entrance. "That man is looking at us." I turned to see my father standing uncertainly at the gallery door, dressed in a suit that seemed slightly too large for his thinner frame. Our eyes met across the room, and he raised a hand in hesitant greeting. "Who's that?" Lily asked curiously. I took a deep breath. "That's your grandfather." "My father." Her eyes widened. "The one who sent the scary doll?" "He was part of that, yes," I acknowledged. "But he's trying to change." Lily studied him thoughtfully. "He looks sad." "He probably is," I said honestly. "He made mistakes that hurt people. And now he's trying to figure out how to do better. Like when I broke Emma's bracelet and had to apologize and be extra nice." I smiled at her simple but profound comparison. "Something like that. But much bigger mistakes over a longer time." She considered this. "Can I meet him?" "Not by myself," she added quickly. "With you there." After a moment's hesitation, I nodded. "If you want to. But only for a little while, and you can change your mind anytime." We approached my father together, Lily half hiding behind me. Up close, the changes in him were more apparent. He'd lost weight, and the authoritative posture I remembered had given way to something more humble. "I hope it's okay that I came," he said quietly. "Your exhibition was listed in the local arts newsletter. Your work is extraordinary, Jessica." "Thank you," I replied, then gestured to Lily. "This is my daughter." "Hello, Lily," he said, crouching to her level but maintaining a respectful distance. "I'm Frank. I'm very pleased to meet you properly." Lily studied him with the direct, unfiltered assessment only children can manage. "Did you help send the scary doll?" she asked bluntly. He flinched but answered honestly. "Yes, I did. It was a terrible mistake, and I'm very sorry. Mom says you're trying to be better now." "I am," he nodded. "It's not easy to change when you're old like me, but I'm working on it every day." Lily seemed to accept this. "I like your tie," she offered. "It has planets on it." A genuine smile transformed his face. "Thank you. I like astronomy. Do you know about the planets?" As they chatted about space, I watched my father with Lily, the gentle way he listened to her. His careful respect for her personal space, his genuine interest in her thoughts. He was different with her than he had ever been with me, showing none of the stiff formality or critical judgment that had characterized my childhood interactions with him. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a beginning. Later that evening, after Lily was asleep, I sat alone with a glass of wine, reflecting on the exhibition and the unexpected encounter with my father. My phone buzzed with a text message from him. "Thank you for allowing me to meet Lily today. She's remarkable, creative, and perceptive, just like her mother. I understand if this is all you're comfortable with right now. If you ever want to talk more, I'm here. I didn't reply immediately, needing time to process. This new version of my father, humble, patient, respectful of boundaries, was so different from the man who had stood silently by while my mother wielded Charlotte as a weapon of control. 2 weeks later, I invited him to join us for ice cream at a park near our apartment. Our interactions remained cautious, the weight of history ever present. But seeing his genuine efforts to connect with Lily on her terms, asking about her art, listening to her stories without judgment, gave me a glimpse of the grandfather he could become. He never asked to see her alone, never pushed for more than I was willing to give. When Lily mentioned mother once, asking if her grandmother would ever visit too, he answered honestly, "Your grandmother and I have very different ideas about family. She's not ready to change her ways like I'm trying to do." As winter turned to spring, my relationship with my father evolved slowly. Each small interaction building a fragile bridge across the chasm of the past. We weren't close, might never be, but we were finding a way forward based on honesty rather than pretense. My mother remained in Connecticut, refusing all contact. According to my father, she had maintained that I was poisoning him against her, that Lily needed proper guidance she wasn't receiving. Her unchanged perspective confirmed I'd made the right decision in keeping her away from my daughter. In April, on Lily's 9th birthday, I unveiled a surprise. I'd found an affordable 2-bedroom apartment with a small patio garden, just as Lily had painted months earlier. As we signed the lease, I realized how far we'd come from that frightening moment when she'd opened the box containing Charlotte. The doll that was meant to control had instead catalyzed liberation from old patterns, from buried trauma, from the silence that allowed abuse to continue across generations. In trying to extend her influence to Lily, my mother had inadvertently freed us both. That evening, Lily and I planted flowers in containers on our new patio, bright marigolds and zinnias that would bloom through summer, visual reminders of growth and renewal. "Mommy," Lily said thoughtfully as she patted soil around a seedling, "do you think the mean lady in my dreams will ever be nice like Grandpa Frank is trying to be?" I considered how to answer truthfully without burdening her. "I don't know, sweetheart. Some people hold very tightly to their ways of thinking, even when those ways hurt others. But what matters is that we're creating something different." She nodded, seemingly satisfied. "I like our family the way it is. You and me and Allison and Mark and sometimes Grandpa Frank when he's being good." "Me too," I agreed, pulling her into a one-armed hug. "Family is about love and safety, not just who you're related to." "And no creepy dolls," she added solemnly. I laughed, the sound carrying into the evening air. "Definitely no creepy dolls." As we finished our planting, I reflected on the incredible resilience of children and of the child I had once been. The porcelain doll that had been used to terrorize me had nearly extended its reach to my daughter, but instead had ultimately led to healing and freedom. The cycle of control and fear that had passed from my grandmother to my mother stopped with me. In its place, Lily would inherit only what would help her flourish: creativity without criticism, love without conditions, strength without cruelty. That night, I added finishing touches to my latest painting, a luminous portrayal of a woman and child planting a garden, surrounded by light. It would be the centerpiece of my next exhibition, titled simply Growth. The journey of breaking generational trauma isn't simple or linear. There are setbacks and difficult days. The past doesn't disappear, but its power diminishes as we face it honestly and choose a different path forward. If you're watching this and recognizing patterns from your own childhood in how you parent, know that change is possible at any point. The courage to break cycles of harm is one of the greatest gifts we can give our children and ourselves. Has someone in your family ever tried to control you through fear or manipulation? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Remember, sharing these stories helps others feel less alone in their journeys. Thank you for listening. And may you find the strength to transform whatever has hurt you into something that helps you grow.